the release of Black Panther 2, this is the middle chapter of my 3-part series of ranking all the MCU movies. We'll kick our middle chapter off with Ant-Man. This movie may be small in scale compared to most of the MCU, but it's just a fun heist film inside of this franchise. It works because of its charismatic cast. Paul Rudd is great as the superhero, and Michael Douglas brings a bunch of more energy as the mentor to Ant-Man. Now the plot may be a little bit derivative from the first Iron Man, but this movie is just unassuming fun, and that's what I really enjoy about it, and I'm entertained every time I watch it. Number 19, Black Widow. This is a weird kickoff to Phase 4, as the lead character is somebody who died in Phase 3, and this movie is set way before she died. Still, I view it as an enjoyable spy film with personal stakes and charismatic characters, in particular, Yelena and Red Guardian. Now, obviously, there's a weird decision for the villain that they used in this movie. Taskmaster was a total waste and has a lackluster live-action cartoon of a finale, but it is still a good MCU movie. Number 18 is Iron Man 3. This is a tricky one because Shane Black's dialogue and direction fits Tony Stark and the characters in this movie very well. This movie contains some of the best action we have ever gotten in the MCU, and Tony's dynamic with other people is just great, especially with our new characters like the Kid and Maya Hansen, and even the villain Aldrich Killian. But plot lines are abandoned once you get to Age of Ultron, and of course the Mandarin twist is just so unforgivable that they retconned it in Shang-Chi. But still, if you could forgive the Mandarin twist, this is a top-notch superhero film. Number 17, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Sam Raimi's MCU horror film absolutely works. It has all the weird effects Sam Raimi uses. It has fun multiverse cameos with the Illuminati in the middle of it. I did find the movie to have too many plot devices and not as much madness in the MCU as you would expect in a movie called Multiverse of Madness. But Raimi was actually able to just go for it and make a movie as crazy as this. And I'm so glad that something like this exists. I just think it could have been a little bit better. That brings us to Black Panther. This is one of the MCU movies that has very rich themes in it. Killmonger is one of the more interesting MCU villains because there's truth to where you see where he's coming from, and he's able to win the internal conflict, the internal victory, and convince T'Challa and Wakanda to stand by his side. But they don't want him to do it in the particular way that he is doing it. And this is an example of a comic book movie that has something to say while still being comic book blockbuster movie. Now there are some bad CGI here and there, but there are also some great performances, and I just think this movie really works. Number 15 is Captain America the First Avenger. This is another tricky one because it is a great origin story for the character of Steve Rogers, who is a noble and inspiring lead that you could believe could be this guy that could just do a bunch of great stuff, and it's so inspiring. There's a great score in it, as well as a large production value, but there's an exposition heavy villain in Red Skull, as whenever it cuts to him, he's always dropping exposition, and it doesn't have a great narrative since it montages through World War II, and then we jump into the final battle. And so it's a film that I wish I could put it higher, and it's a little bit good, a little bit bad, so it's right here in the middle. Number 14 is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. A fun addition to our MCU mythology, including a great villain whom, much like Killmonger and Black Panther, you can kind of see where he's coming from in all of this, while absolutely being a villain who needs to be stopped. Another thing is that it's really funny, because this is one of the more comedic films in the MCU, as well as it does have some awesome action that takes influence from different types of Hong Kong cinema. Now, it has some over-reliance on CGI, but that doesn't change the fact that this is a widely entertaining movie. Number 13 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, a sequel that feels like the proper continuation of the first film. It still contains as much humor and energy as that film, but instead it has interesting themes about fathers and how if you're lost, you can look for them, but they're right there all along. Now I do have a bit of issues with this movie. It's weirdly structured with one villain in each act. First act, Sovereign. Second act, Taserface. Third act, Ego. And there's an unbelievably stupid inciting incident with Rocket stealing some batteries. But this is the MCU movie I have watched the most. Number 12 is Thor Ragnarok, the Thor movie with a bunch of energy injected into this franchise. Everything has charisma and vibrance from beginning to end, but it also brings some emotional weight at the end because the stakes were so high that it pays off pretty well at the end. It shows Chris Hemsworth impeccable comedic timing, but I'll say that it sacrifices tension too much for a cheap joke. But this is still easily the best of the Thor films. And we'll close off our middle chapter with Doctor Strange, the MCU film with the most creative visuals around everything, which makes for some fun scenarios for action sequences where things are going backwards, the city is crumbling on itself, and it clearly reminded me of Inception. It's a compelling origin story for the lead character, and ever since this movie I've wanted to see more of him, and we did get more of him, but there is a forgettable villain in the mix as much as I love Mads Mikkelsen. But this movie, when you rewatch it, it's actually funnier than you might think. There's a bunch of humor sprinkled throughout that just matches the tone of this movie very well, and so I really enjoyed it. There you have it. Those are my 10 middle MCU movies. Down below, share your ranking. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content over on my channel. And stick around for part 3. I'll see you there.